Allahu, 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 Allah.
So today, inshallah, Abdurrahman, we shall be discussing about the 54th chapter of the Quran, Surah Al-Qamar, inshallah. And he shall be doing the first part, and inshallah, he'll be giving a brief summary over the first part from ayah 1 to 22.
Now, inshallah, I'll be beginning my section on Surah Al-Qamar, inshallah. Surah Al-Qamar is a very long surah, so we'll be dividing it into two parts. I'll be doing the first 22 ayahs, and Abdullah will be finishing off the rest, inshallah, next week, Wednesday, 5:30. And please stay till the end, because at the end, we will be releasing questions upon what I will be discussing, inshallah. أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم اقتربت الساعة وانشق القمر وإن يروا آية يعرضوا ويقولوا سحر مستمر وكذبوا واتبعوا أهواءهم وكل أمر مستقر ولقد جاءهم من الأنباء ما فيه مزدجر حكمة بالغة فما تغني النذر فتول عنهم يوم يدعو الداعي إلى شيء نكر خش عن أبصارهم يخرجون من الأجداث كأنهم جراد منتشر مهطعين إلى الداع يقول الكافرون هذا يوم عسر كذبت قبلهم قوم نوح فكذبوا عبدنا وقالوا مجنون وازدجر فدعا ربه أني مغلوب فانتصر ففتحنا أبواب السماء بماء منهمر وفجرنا الأرض عيونا فالتقى الماء على أمر قد قدر وحملناه على ذات ألواح ودسر تجري بأعيننا جزاء لمن كان كفر ولقد تركناها آية فهل من مدكر فكيف كان عذابي ونذر ولقد يسرنا القرآن للذكر فهل من مدكر كذبت عاد فكيف كان عذابي ونذر إنا أرسلنا عليهم ريحا صرصرا في يوم نحس مستمر تنزع الناس كأنهم أعجاز نخل منقعر فكيف كان عذابي ونذر ولقد يسرنا القرآن للذكر فهل من مدكر بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم رب اشرح لي صدري ويسر لي أمري واحلل عقدة من لساني يفقه قولي ربنا زدنا علما آمين رب العالمين. Today, inshallah, we'll be discussing Surah Al-Qamar, which means the moon, the thing that we see at nighttime. Surah Al-Qamar is paired up with the other surah before it, which inshallah we'll be doing in 2 weeks, inshallah, which is Surah Najm. So this surah has a beginning story, amazing incidents about when the moon split or cracked, like you see in the picture. the Prophet ﷺ at that time, he was asking Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala for a miracle so the kuffar could believe. Any miracle that the Prophet ﷺ used to give to the kuffar, they used to blame it on something else. Now, in this case, when the Prophet ﷺ split the moon, the kuffar were saying, you have put magic on our eyes and we see the moon split. And they kept on praying to their idols, remove the magic. And they know they were saying wrong stuff. They know they were saying the wrong stuff. And they know that the Prophet ﷺ was right. And there was also another person who saw this, and it was at nighttime. So somewhere around in India, around Badabar, the port, the king over there, he witnessed this, and he didn't want to tell anyone, or else people would think he was crazy. So when some merchants from Yemen were going to India and to export some goods, he asked these Muslims privately in a separate room, is this true? I saw the moon split one day. Is this really true? And then when they told him, yes, the Prophet ﷺ did this just to show the kuffar, but they still never believed. And then after that, the king became Muslim. And if the kuffar don't believe that, we can even see, like recently, in 50 years ago, the astronaut, he went up to space and then he saw a crack in the moon. So it is all there. It is all real. There's no magic. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala really did this. So it seems that the story is fake, but it really is. And no matter how much research you do and try proving it wrong, it's true. So let's begin with the first ayah. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala talks about the hour in the surah, or also known as the Day of Judgment. He gives us many reminders, and he also gives us, for my section today, inshallah, I'll be mentioning 2 other prophets mentioned as a reminder for us. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala starts the surah off. اقتربت الساعة وانشق القمر. The hour has come near, the hour has approached, and the moon has been split. So for Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, his time is very different from ours. 1 second of hours to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala might be even less than a millisecond. Must be very fast. A year of hours is very fast for Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So when Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says near could mean around 2,000 years to 10,000 years, but Allahu A'lam. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has his way of measuring time compared with our human timing. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says the hour is drawing near, and while that is happening, he tells us one of the first signs that already has happened, that the hour has come, so the moon has split apart. وَإِن يَرَوْا آيَةً يُعْرِضُوا. And if they were to see a miracle, any miracle, وَيَقُولُوا سِحْرٌ مُسْتَمِرٌ, they would then ignore it and they would say, this is continuous magic. You do this again and again to us. We know what you're trying to do. So this is what the kuffar are saying. Like I was telling you about the moon incident when it split, the kuffar said that they put magic, some magic came in their eyes, so they see the moon split. And many other incidents, like if a believer would turn Muslim and the Prophet ﷺ would go say, see, look how many believers I have. They would make an excuse that, oh, you only have the poor people, the poor residents of Mecca on your side. And they would just try making any excuse just to make the Prophet ﷺ look bad. So like in this case, the moon was split. They would say, this is a continuous magic. You do this. This is wrong what you're doing. And they just wandered off. And in the next ayah, وَكَذَّبُوا وَاتَّبَعُوا أَهْوَاءَهُمْ, that they lied and they followed their empty, vain desires. وَكُلُّ أَمْرٍ مُسْتَقِرٍ, and every issue is eventually going to be settled down with. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is saying, let them do whatever they want. Let them do whatever bad deeds they want to do. Let them do whatever good deeds they want to do. Let them do whatever they want. This life is short, 60 to 70 years, maybe longer, or shorter even at sometimes. But Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says that on the Day of Judgment, I will settle these issues. And I will give those who are righteous what they truly deserve. And I will give those who are doing bad sins and bad deeds what they truly deserve. For the righteous people, it will be Jannah. For those who are doing bad deeds, it will be Jahannam. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is saying that there will be a time that will be coming for the disbelievers, and they're going to have to pay for what they have done in this dunya. وَلَقَدْ جَاءَهُمْ مِنَ الْأَنْبَاءِ مَا فِيهِ مُزْدَجَرٌ. And what has come to them from the news, Anba, like Surah Naba, it means the news, something that is alarming, a revelation. مَا فِيهِ مُزْدَجَرٌ, which contains a lot of scolding and warning. So before you think about anything about this ayah, listen first. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, when He sends the Quran down and He wants to emphasize a point, He will make swears. Like we can see in the 30th juz, He does this multiple times. In Surah Shams, وَالشَّمْسِ وَضُحَاهَا, He swears by the sun. And we can see multiple times in the Quran where Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala swears and then He says things. And that is only to emphasize this point. If He's talking about something good, He would be, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala would be calm. He would deliver the message, the point that He wants to deliver, and make it look so good. And if He wants to talk about Jahannam, He would raise His tone, like in Meccan ayat. We can see Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala raises His tone. He talks about the evil will get people and then they would be thrown into Jahannam. We have to control ourselves. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, when Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala scolds in the Quran, He is trying to emphasize a point, and we should listen to that. And not going and saying, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is saying bad words, run away, don't shut the Quran and leave. No, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is trying to emphasize a point. You hear Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala out. So if Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is saying that there are news that came in the Quran, we have to look at it. حِكْمَةٌ بَالِغَةٌ فَمَا تُغْنِ النُّذُرُ. Far-reaching wisdom in scolding. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is saying that there is a wisdom for me that I scold. This is one of the interpretations why we think Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala scolds. So in one of the questions I'll be asking, there are two types of people who scold. In this case, one of the characters is Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says He has a perfect wisdom. He has a far-reaching wisdom in this way of preaching. فَمَا تُغْنِ النُّذُرُ. But when these all came, whatever tone that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has spoken, none of these warnings came to avail. No one cared about these warnings. فَتَوَلَّ عَنْهُمْ يَوْمَ يَدْعُ الدَّاعِي إِلَى شَيْءٍ نُكُرٍ. So now these warnings don't matter. The disbelievers will turn away. يَوْمَ يَدْعُ الدَّاعِي إِلَى شَيْءٍ نُكُرٍ. And on that day, which a caller will call a thing to them that is alien to them, dislike to them, unknown to them. And this will be the trumpet. Some of the scholars say that there will be a really loud horn that will kill everyone all at once, and then it will be done again, and everyone would be risen up. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala describes this. خُشَّعًا أَبْصَارُهُمْ يَخْرُجُونَ مِنَ الْأَجْدَاثِ. That Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says that their eyes are going to be filled with horror. They're going to be humbled. So there's a saying that either be humble or you will be humbled. In this case, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, those who are mushrikeen and kafirin and those who are doing bad deeds, they will be humbled on this day. Their eyes are going to be filled with horror as they're coming out of their graves. And some of them are unmarked and all that. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will rise all of those. كَأَنَّهُمْ جَرَادٌ مُنْتَشِرٌ. So pay attention. Over here, this is one of the questions as well. The last question. I ask in the question section that how does Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala compare us on the day of judgment when we are fleeing, when the way we are running? Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala compares us to locusts spreading everywhere. And we heard recently that there were in Africa, there were a bunch of locusts and they spread throughout the whole thing within days. So look how fast these things are going. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is comparing us to these locusts on the day of judgment. And ajadath are unmarked graves that even someone has forgot about it or no one even knew where they are. And the plural for this is jadathun. مهطعين إلى الداع. Now this is the 8th ayah. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says over here that they will be running towards this caller. So for this, in this case, some of the scholars have said that this caller is either the trumpet. They would go where they assume where it is, or they would go where there is some light, where there's some peace. So on that day, they will all be running towards that caller. يقول الكافرون هذا يوم عسير. And on that day, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says that on that day, the disbelievers will say, this is a hard day. Asir, that this is a hard day. Muhti'ina comes from the verb hata'a, which means to run with something that is in your eyes. It is as if there is a fire going all around you and everything is falling, and you see that safe place that is protected from all that fire. And out of all the commotion, you will stick to that place. You will stay in that place, and you will make sure to run to that place. Now, كذبت قبلهم قوم نوح. So now Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala describes the disbelievers and all that. Now Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala describes the first prophet of my section now, inshallah. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala talks about Nuh. This is the first prophet. كذبت قبلهم قوم نوح. And before the nation of Nuh alayhi salam, فكذبوا عبدنا. And they called our slave a liar. وقالوا مجنون وازدجر. And they called him insane and he was scolded. Wait, this is the second person. So we learned that there are two people scolding in part 1 of Surah Al-Qamar. First is Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, then the kafirin, the mushrikeen, those who were the idolaters, those who were worshipping other than Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is saying over here that whenever Nuh alayhi salam would come to them and preach to them, they would be scolding him and then telling him bad things, saying that he was a madman, that he didn't know what he's doing, he's insane. And people of all generations would leave him. And imagine Nuh alayhi salam, how long did he live for? 950 years? So imagine how many generations are there and that are alive. And you see the lifetime of Nuh alayhi salam. So imagine the other people's lifetimes are similar. So imagine there might have been like 20 generations or 30 or 50 generations walking around Nuh alayhi salam and ignoring him at the same time. So, and he only ended up with only a few people at the end. So imagine how hard it was for him to contain his anger and how much patience Nuh alayhi salam had. That he had to control his patience and anger for almost 900 years when everyone is calling him insane and that he's crazy and everything. فدعا ربه أني مغلوب فانتصر. So after the 900-year mark, Nuh alayhi salam called upon Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and asked him, I have been overcome by my people, no one's listening to me anymore, they're all calling me bad things. أني مغلوب فانتصر. That please come and help me. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, so come help me. So avenge for me, get revenge for me. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala Nuh alayhi salam is begging Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala for revenge. That they were calling him bad things. Now Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, you take my anger and then put it on top of them. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, فَفَتَحْنَا أَبْوَابَ السَّمَاءِ بِمَاءٍ مُنْهَمِرٍ. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, we open the gates of heaven. In this case, it is the sky, which means that it was raining very harshly. That Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala opened the clouds and all the rain was coming down and it was being constantly poured. Some people theorized that it was about for 2 months, this flood. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala further describes it. وَفَجَّرْنَا الْأَرْضَ عُيُونًا فَالْتَقَى الْمَاءُ عَلَى أَمْرٍ قَدْ قُدِرَ. And we have caused the earth to gush forth with springs, and the two waters met, and they executed a matter that was already decreed to them. Before I get to that, I want you to understand why Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala put two water sources. One is coming from the sky and one is coming from the bottom. So imagine a shower and a bathtub. So there's that nozzle and there's the other one. So you would open both of them so the water could come quickly, and more would come. So in this case, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is almost doing it at a much greater scale. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is saying over here that He opened the entire skies around this area, and He even opened the mountains and they're crumbling and only water is coming out of them. So only water was coming out and out. And the matter that was decreed was Nuh alayhi salam vengeance upon his people. وَحَمَلْنَاهُ عَلَى ذَاتِ أَلْوَاحٍ وَدُسُرٍ. And we boarded him onto a ship made out of planks and nails. And these were the only components. Some people say they have found something near Turkey where it landed. They said they found a lot of supply of nails and planks. But Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is saying over here that I have told Nuh alayhi salam, I commanded him, make a boat out of planks and nails only, nothing else. تجري بأعيننا جزاء لمن كان كفر. It flows under our watch. What flows under our watch? The water or the boat? The boat. The boat flows on top of the water. And this is a compensation for those, for the one who was disbelieved in. And that was Nuh alayhi salam. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, this is the most rough storm in human history. So Nuh alayhi salam, no experience at being a sailor or a driver or anything to do with a boat. And this is almost one of the largest ships that was created in human history. And this is one of the largest ships that carried that many animals. We know the story that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala commanded to get 2 pairs of animals and board them onto the ship. And we know all of these things. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala became the captain of the ship. This is what He's saying in this ayah, that He controlled the ship from this storm that was coming. And all the chaos, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala brought calm into those who were believing with Nuh alayhi salam. And then He brought them onto the ship. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala was the captain. So Nuh alayhi salam had nothing to worry about, because we have to be mu'mineen. What does Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala tell us? وَعَلَى اللَّهِ فَلْيَتَوَكَّلِ الْمُؤْمِنُونَ. And if we are believers, we should put our trust in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Now, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala tries to end this. وَلَقَدْ تَرَكْنَاهَا آيَةً فَهَلْ مِن مُّدَّكِرٍ. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, this is almost related to what I said previously, that He has left a ship as a miracle, as a sign. فَهَلْ مِن مُّدَّكِرٍ. Is there anyone to put a little effort in to remember? So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala could have said muddakir, which means to remember. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala chooses the basic muddakir, saying this is like the least one. There's more higher efforts, like memorizing the whole thing, to put all your effort, put your life in. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala chooses the basic one, just a little effort, just to remember this incident. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala uses muddakir. فَكَيْفَ كَانَ عَذَابِي وَنُذُرِ. And how terrible was my punishment and warnings. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, 2 cases we could understand it as those people on the day of judgment, the kafirin, who are running around saying this is a harsh day. Or we can think this to the people of Nuh alayhi salam, who are not believing in Nuh, and they were regretting what they did to Nuh alayhi salam. وَلَقَدْ يَسَّرْنَا الْقُرْآنَ لِلذِّكْرِ فَهَلْ مِن مُّدَّكِرٍ. And we have absolutely made the Quran easy for remembrance, and we gave warnings so you can remember and be warned properly. So now, is there anyone who would even put a little effort to remember this? Muddakir again. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala still says muddakir, not even muddakir. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, I have made this Quran easy, so remember this. He's just telling us to memorize this story about Nuh alayhi salam that is almost about 5-7 ayat. And now He's telling us the whole Quran. Well, a lot of us might think this is a very hard thing. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is saying the exact same word that He talked about Nuh alayhi salam for you to remember. So we shouldn't think that memorizing or understanding the Quran is hard. It's not hard. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says over here that it is easy. He uses He says even if you put little effort, you can even memorize it. كذبت ثمود فكيف كان عذابي ونذر. Now we get the second qawm who disobeyed Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. This is Ad in Surah Al-Qamar. And who was the prophet for Ad? This was Hud alayhi salam. Ad lied. So how is my punishment? Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala saying, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, how is Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala's punishment and warnings against them? So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says that we have sent a messenger to them to preach to them, but they denied. They continued worshiping idols. So what was their punishment? إنا أرسلنا عليهم ريحا صرصرا في يوم نحس مستمر. And no doubt, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says that we have sent a freezing, relentless, cold winds against them in a day with no good, and it will not stop. And we can see furthermore of this story of Ad in Surah Ahqaf, which will be coming much later on, inshallah. That we can see that when the cloud was coming and they never got rain for a very long time, and all the people were saying, wow, there's rain, and all the people were gathering, and then Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala released the tornadoes and cold winds and everything, and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala describes how were they feeling and how were they at the end. He says, so Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is comparing those people on that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is comparing, this is still ayah 20, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is saying that those men and women who were disobeying Prophet Hud alayhi salam, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala compares them as if there were date palm trees that were pulled out and uprooted. Uprooted meaning that when there's a tree that falls down, usually termites get into it and it's just hollow from the middle. This is the exact same thing Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is saying, that you could see their body, but inside of them, it was all mush. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala crumpled their bones within them. Now, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, these are the final two ayat. Then how terrible my torment and my warnings were then. And we can still say the same thing. Either this was for Nuh alayhi salam's people, or this was Hud alayhi salam's people, or the kafirin on the day of judgment. وَلَقَدْ يَسَّرْنَا الْقُرْآنَ لِلذِّكْرِ فَهَلْ مِن مُدَّكِرٍ. And we have indeed made the Quran easy for you to remember. And that, is there anyone who would like to put enough effort, any effort to remember and receive admonition or reward for this? So remember, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala mentions this ayah twice, these two ayats actually. Mentions them twice in my section. Inshallah, it will be coming up more times in Abdullah's section next week. But inshallah, this is it for today. Jazakallah khairan everyone for attending today. Now, inshallah, we will be launching the polls. So these are the questions that I was discussing earlier about. Abdullah has just launched them right now. So while Abdullah will be reading ayahs 1 through 22 of Surah Al-Qamar, Abdullah will be reading those, and you will be answering these questions, inshallah. Jazakallah khairan. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
Allah khair, Ahmad, for giving this beautiful presentation on Surah Al-Qamar, the first part. I hope everybody learned something beneficial from this, and that we shouldn't be like the mushrikeen or the people of Nuh or like the people of Ad who denied the messengers. Okay, so inshallah, as Rahman said, I'll be reciting the first 22 ayat. أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم اقتربت الساعة وانشق القمر وإن يروا آية يعرضوا ويقولوا سحر مستمر وكذبوا واتبعوا أهواءهم وكل أمر مستقر ولقد جاءهم من الأنباء ما فيه مزدجر حكمة بالغة فما تغني النذر فتول عنهم يوم يدعو الداعي إلى شيء نكر خش عن أبصارهم يخرجون من الأجداث كأنهم جراد منتشر مهطعين إلى الداع يقول الكافرون هذا يوم عسر كذبت قبلهم قوم نوح فكذبوا عبدنا وقالوا مجنون وازدجر فدعا ربه أني مغلوب فانتصر ففتحنا أبواب السماء بماء منهمر وفجرنا الأرض عيونا فالتقى الماء على أمر قد قدر وحملناه على ذات ألواح ودسر تجري بأعيننا جزاء لمن كان كفر ولقد تركناها آية فهل من مدكر فكيف كان عذابي ونذر ولقد يسرنا القرآن للذكر فهل من مدكر كذبت عاد فكيف كان عذابي ونذر إنا أرسلنا عليهم ريحا صرصرا في يوم نحس مستمر تنزع الناس كأنهم أعجاز نخل منقعر فكيف كان عذابي ونذر ولقد يسرنا القرآن للذكر فهل من مدكر صدق الله العظيم.
Jazakallah khairan, Abdullah, for going over the Surah 1 through 22. Now, inshallah, I'll be going over the questions, inshallah. Okay, the first question, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, the question says, what does qamar mean? Mush, trees, rocks, sun, or moon? The correct answer is the moon. We can see this in the first ayah when Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, question 2, why is the surah called Qamar? Because it is beautiful at night, because it is very important to birds, because the Prophet split the moon, because the moon was falling on earth. The correct answer is because the Prophet split the moon. When I was giving the introduction, the Prophet was asking Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala for a miracle. So this was the miracle that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala sent down forth. Okay. 2 characters in Surah Qamar scolded. Who are they? The Prophet and Isa alayhi salam, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and the Kafirin, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and the prophets, Muslims and the Kafirin. So there are three answer choices that were majority answered. Prophet and Isa. Isa alayhi salam wasn't mentioned in this segment, so that is not an answer. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and the Kafirin, and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and the prophets. So it is Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. We know that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala scolds when he wants to when he wants to preach a message to us, something that is very important that he wants us to understand. And then we can see in Nuh alayhi salam's story that the Kafirin were scolding Nuh alayhi salam, calling him that he was insane and he was a madman. So it wasn't the prophets who were scolding, it was the Kafirin who were scolding. So the correct answer choice is Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and the Kafirin. Question 4. How did Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala describe us on the Day of Judgment? The way we will flee. To cows, to birds, to locusts, to shooting stars. So shooting stars aren't here. Stars will be coming up in next week's presentation, inshallah, for Surah Najm. Cows wasn't mentioned. Birds wasn't mentioned either. And I'm pretty sure you remember the pictures of those bugs, so it has to be locusts. Jazakallah khairan everyone for attending the poll question today and attending today's lecture. Please join us next week for our Surah Qamar Part 2, where I'll be doing the next section, where I'll be doing the next 99 name of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, while Abdullah will be doing Part 2 of Surah Qamar. Jazakallah khairan. Abdullah, any other comments?
Just like Abdurrahman said, please join inshallah next time. Inshallah, same time on Wednesday, 5:30 Central Time. So now, inshallah, I'll do the following dua. سبحانك اللهم وبحمدك أشهد أن لا إله إلا أنت أستغفرك وأتوب إليه. أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. والعصر إن الإنسان لفي خسر إلا الذين آمنوا وعملوا الصالحات وتواصوا بالحق وتواصوا بالصبر. سبحان ربك رب العزة عما يصفون وسلام على المرسلين والحمد لله رب العالمين. وآخر دعواهم أن الحمد لله رب العالمين والسلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته.
الله والله والله